Ever been crammed on a train, feeling like your personal bubble has, completely burst?
Oh, definitely.
Or maybe someone in line is just a little too close. Makes you want to step back, right?
Yeah, that instinctive shuffle. We've all done it.
We really have. And it makes you wonder, how do we handle that? How do we ask for that space without being, well, awkward or rude?
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. The whole kind of surprisingly intricate world of personal
It's
space.
more than just an invisible line then.
Much more. It's about communication, understanding cues, asserting our needs, really helping you feel more comfortable and in control in those situations.
Okay, so the goal is some real practical stuff people can actually use.
That's the plan. We've pulled together some interesting sources. We've got a transcript looking at the actual English phrases you can use.
Ah, like specific words.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're drawing insights from an assertiveness skills workbook looking at the bigger picture.
Assertiveness. Okay,
Oh,
makes
God.
sense.
And to make it real, we'll touch on research about how even like seating arrangements affect things.
Seating arrangements, really?
Oh, yeah. And we'll peek into an online discussion about, the classic personal space battleground long flights.
Ugh, don't remind me. Okay, so this deep dive is about getting to the heart of it quickly and thoroughly.
Right. Cut through the noise, give you those actionable insights, hopefully some aha moments along the way.
All right, let's do it. Where do we start? With defining personal space itself.
Yeah, let's start there. What is personal space? It seems simple, but it really shifts, depending on where you are, who you're with.
The personal bubble idea.
That's the one. And what's fascinating is how much the size of that preferred bubble varies. Culture plays a huge role.
Right. One source mentioned the U.S. versus India, didn't it? Like in the U.S., people tend to expect more distance.
Exactly. Whereas in India, closer proximity in many situations is just normal. It doesn't usually signal discomfort in the same way. Really highlights those unspoken rules we carry.
It really does. So are there, like, defined distances?
Well, yeah, the anthropologist Edward T. Hall gave us a framework. 4 main zones.
Okay.
Intimate space, like 0 to 18 inches. That's for partners, very close family.
Right, very close.
Then personal space, maybe 18 inches to 4 feet. Friends, family gatherings, that kind of thing.
Okay, that feels familiar.
Then social space, 4 to 10 feet. More for casual chats, maybe professional settings.
Got it.
And finally, public space, anything over 10 feet, talking to strangers, public speaking. But these aren't rigid rules, more like tendencies shaped by culture and experience.
It's like we're constantly adjusting, aren't we?
Yeah.
Depending on who it is. Standing near your partner versus a new colleague. Totally different feeling.
Precisely. Context is everything. And, that term social distancing became so common recently.
Oh, yeah.
Its roots are actually in public health, like quarantines way back when. But the idea of needing physical separation in daily life, that's fundamental to personal space.
Okay, so we get that space matters, and it varies. But what about when someone's in your space? How do you actually, ask them to move back a bit?
Yeah, the practical bit. Our transcript source had some good, straightforward English phrases.
Like what?
Simple things like, could you move over a bit? Or if it's more casual, maybe scooch over.
Scooch over, yeah, I've used that.
Or if you need a bit more, something like, I'm kind of squished over here. Mind if I move your chair? Or mind if I get you to shift a bit? Direct, but not aggressive.
But it's not just the words, is it? The transcript mention how you say it.
Absolutely crucial. The delivery. A smile helps, a light tone.
Right.
And it definitely advises against, physically moving someone or their stuff without asking, unless it's someone you know really, really well.
Common sense, really.
Basically, yeah. A polite tone just makes it go down easier. Be clear, but be considerate.
Which kind of links to that broader idea you mentioned, assertiveness.
Right.
That's not just about space, is it?
Not at all. It's a core communication skill. The workbook defines it as, well, finding that balance. Standing up for your rights while respecting the rights of others.
Okay, so it's the middle ground between being passive and being aggressive.
Exactly. Passive is when you let your own needs get pushed aside. Aggressive is when you push your needs onto others, disregarding them. And then you have manipulative or passive-aggressive stuff, which is messy.
Right, so thinking about personal space specifically, what rights are we talking about?
The workbook points out some key ones, like the right to my own needs for personal space and time.
Okay, that's fundamental.
And crucially, the right to ask for what I want. Just recognizing you have these rights is a big first step.
But knowing you have the right and actually asking for it can feel different. What stops us? What are the barriers?
Good question. The workbook lists a few common ones. Self-defeating beliefs are a big one.
Like thinking, oh, I shouldn't make a fuss.
Exactly. Or thinking they'll react badly. Sometimes it's just not having the skills, not knowing what to say, or how to use nonverbal cues effectively.
Hmm.
Anxiety or stress can definitely make it harder too. And like we said, culture plays a role. How direct are you expected to be?
Okay, that makes sense. So if we want to get better at this, build those assertive skills for managing space, what do we focus on?
The workbook breaks it down nicely into nonverbal and verbal stuff.
Nonverbal first.
Yeah. Good eye contact, not staring, but steady. A comfortable, firm posture, not slumped, not leaning in aggressively, and a steady voice tone.
Contrasting with like looking away or mumbling if you're passive or glaring if you're aggressive.
Precisely. And then there's the verbal side.
What we actually say.
Right. Assertive language often uses I statements. I feel cramped, rather than you're crowding me. It focuses on your experience.
Less blaming.
Totally. Using cooperative words, suggesting solutions, clearly stating what you need, not using wishy-washy qualifiers like maybe or sort of, or aggressive language like threats.
Okay. Now you mentioned a tool earlier, DESC. Sounded useful.
Yeah, the DESC script. It's a great little framework for practicing these requests. DESC.
Okay, break it down. D.
D is describe. You describe the specific behavior objectively, just the facts. When you stand this close. Time, place, frequency, no guessing motives.
Got it. Facts only.
E. E is express. You express your feelings using I statements, calmly. I feel uncomfortable, or I find it difficult to concentrate. Focus on the behavior's impact on you.
Okay.
S. S is specify. You ask for a specific small change. Could you please take one step back? Or would you mind moving your bag? Make it clear and doable.
Right. Something concrete. And C.
C is consequences. You state the positive outcome if they make the change, then I'll be able to focus better, and maybe a manageable consequence if they don't, though often the positive is enough.
That sounds really practical. A step-by-step guide almost.
It really helps structure the thought process.
Okay, let's apply this. That online chat about flights, that
Yeah.
felt like prime DESC territory.
Absolutely. Flights are tough, limited space, people tired or stressed. The discussion showed people use various tactics.
Like what? Putting the armrest down immediately.
Yeah, that was common. Using it as a clear boundary. Others mentioned creating barriers, books, pillows, even a backpack on the lap sometimes.
Little walls. I saw someone mention like a thin book to kind of gently reinforce the armrest line if someone's elbow kept creeping over.
Yeah, subtle but maybe effective. Direct requests were mentioned too, though, politely asking for a bit more room.
And if that fails.
Flight attendant as a last resort, some suggested. But it's interesting, the frustration often wasn't just about physical size, but about perceived entitlement or lack of awareness.
Yeah, it's the attitude sometimes, isn't it? Which brings us to the environment itself. You said seating arrangements matter. How so?
Yeah, research by Summer and Knapp looked at this. Where you sit at a table actually influences the interaction.
Okay, tell me more.
Sitting in a corner of a rectangular table often encourages friendly, informal chat. Good eye contact, good for maybe presenting something casually.
Okay. What about side by side?
That's the cooperative position. Good for working together like you're literally on the same side.
Yeah.
Think colleagues meeting a client.
Right. And opposite each other, face to face.
That can be the competitive or defensive position. Can feel a bit more adversarial, especially in work settings. Research suggests it can even lead to shorter sentences, more disagreements.
Well, okay. And diagonally across.
That's the independent position, often signals non-involvement, like strangers in a library. But if interaction is expected, it can seem disinterested.
It's like a whole secret language just in where we park ourselves. And the table shape matters too.
Definitely. Rectangular tables can sometimes feel more competitive. Square tables good for quick, direct chats or hierarchy. Round tables are meant to be equalizing.
The King Arthur idea.
Right, but even then, sitting next to the perceived leader often gives someone unspoken influence, like the person to the right of the boss.
Fascinating. And this applies in classrooms too. You mentioned a funnel effect.
Yeah, students in the front and center tend to participate more, retain more. Where you sit impacts your engagement, apparently.
Wild. And finally, movie theaters. Another classic space negotiation zone.
Yeah. That other discussion highlighted the unspoken rule, even in an empty theater, right? You generally don't sit right next to a stranger. You leave a buffer.
That buffer zone, even in the dark. Okay, we've covered a lot. Let's try and boil it down. What are the key takeaways for you listening?
Okay, I think first, personal space is real. It matters. but it's hugely influenced by culture. Second, assertiveness is your friend. It's about respecting yourself and others.
And we have tools for that, like DESC.
Exactly. Learning specific techniques like the DESC script gives you practical ways to state your needs. And finally, don't underestimate the little things, like where you choose to sit. It sends signals.
Right. So maybe a final thought to leave people with.
Hmm.
How aware are you really of other people's personal space needs in your daily life?
And flipping that, how might understanding these dynamics better actually improve your own comfort and your relationships?
It's definitely food for thought.
Hmm.
Thinking about situations where maybe you could have used DESC, or where you notice someone respecting or maybe not respecting your space.
And just being mindful of those cultural differences, too. It adds another layer to understanding why people act the way they do around space. Definitely worth reflecting on.